We're back.
It's your mom, friends. I'm Chrissy.
And I'm Jess. And this episode, we are talking about Valentine's Day. Well, we're going to talk about the real importance of Valentine's Day from a mom's perspective: connection, intention, and feeling seen. Not about grand gestures or perfectly curated moments. We're going to dive into the reality of managing this holiday as a mom with juggling kids, schedules, emotional labor, and our unmet needs.
Oh,
All right, we're diving in. Okay, so I'm going to be honest. This is a holiday that I, for a long, long time, would tell you was BS. I didn't want anything from Jim. I would say it's just a Hallmark holiday that they are, making obnoxious amounts of money on jacking up prices of roses and, stupid teddy bears from CVS and whatever. So there were years when I was like, I don't want anything for Valentine's Day. I think it's dumb. I don't want anything for Valentine's Day. I think it's dumb. And that really was my take on it for a long time until we went through this transition of being separated and coming back together. And it completely changed my perspective on the holiday. I am somebody now who loves the word intention. I love the meaning behind it. I think that it is very easy as moms going through the motions of life and getting stuck in that daily rhythm that can take its toll on relationships where they become very stagnant. And I have been, somebody who has, I would say, like mowing the lawn, that's your job. Like, why taking the garbage out? That's what you do. Like, I do this and this. And it almost became like a tit for tat kind of thing. That's how I viewed it, even if it wasn't verbalized. But I've noticed a complete 180 in our relationship when we stopped taking the little things for granted. If he took the garbage out, I'd be like, hey, thanks for taking the garbage out. He'd like look at me weird. I'm like, no, seriously, like, thank you. You bring the groceries in for my car, like, I appreciate your help. He doesn't have to. I love that he does. And I want to remind him how much the little things mean to me because I want to keep the relationship alive. I want to keep it, I want that love to always be there. And so for me, being intentional with, making sure he feels loved is important to me. And I think Valentine's Day, changing my perspective on Valentine's Day and truly feeling like it gives me an opportunity to focus on love and why this relationship started, where it came from, why we chose each other is super important when we can get into a rut of maybe we haven't been super intentional about telling them. There's this one day that is a reminder for me.
yes, I love that. And I think I have never been one for Valentine's Day. Quite frankly, I'm not even one for our anniversary. Not much of a holiday celebrator or anything, like, I don't know. However, I do like the idea of it being on the calendar. And we always say, in order for something to happen, put it on a calendar. If you want to have more quality time with kids, I've heard you say, Jess, you put Uno on the calendar. Play Uno with the kids on your calendar, right? Valentine's Day is on your calendar. And so oftentimes we get so caught up on autopilot and just going through the motions of life, and we're taking each other for granted and all the things that just go into being a busy family. Valentine's Day is on your calendar, right? And so if nothing else, let that serve you as a reminder to be like, hey, today, just make it something. Be intentional with how you express your love for someone. And if you're single, how you express your love for yourself, right? And I think that's the important part of this. It's not so much like buying all the chocolates and the roses and all the expensive things on Valentine's Day and going out to an expensive dinner. Really, it's words of affirmation. It's being of service to each other. As Jess was talking, you made me think of the love languages. So I quickly was like, love
Yeah.
languages, right? That's what it made me think of. And I don't know them all off the top of my head. I know it's words of affirmation. I know it's being of service, receiving gifts, quality time, physical touch, right? So I looked it up while you were talking. And so how do we give and receive love? And knowing that about yourself, but then also knowing that about your spouse, right? And if you don't know the answer to it, have the uncomfortable, awkward conversation to get the information that you need. right? And I say awkward and uncomfortable conversation because some people just don't like being vulnerable and talking about what they need. So instead, they may just be passive aggressive because they're not getting what they need. But, he should be a mind reader. He should know that I want help in the kitchen. He should know whatever, right? And so having those really awkward, uncomfortable conversations can get you through to a point where you're giving and receiving what you need. And you're doing the same for your spouse or whatever your situation may be for you. So, although I still don't, I mean, our anniversary came by. We got married on January 1st, and we're not talking about anniversaries right now, but we're talking about acts of love, right? And
Yeah.
paying attention to each other. And so this was the first year. We've been married 5 years, and it's the first year I actually get them a card and something for our anniversary. Just don't do it. And so I made the intentional point, though. It's like, I need to do better with this. And so I was. And I think that's what it boils down to. It's our intention and the thought that goes into it, not just doing it because it's a holiday.
Yeah. 100%. I love that you brought up love languages. I just put in Happy Moms, the color personalities. It's so important to learn about your spouse. And we could do a whole podcast on this. The transition that we've each gone through, right? We expect them to be the same person we met, however many years ago, but we've grown. They have gone through seasons and changed as well. And depending on what kind of, the season of parenting you're in and whatnot, it all matters. So keeping the lines of communication open, there's times when we have conversations and it's like you would think we just met each other again, like we're just getting down to like, where we are, what we want, where do you want to go, what do you love, what do you not love, how are we doing? That's something that I learned going through coaching and therapy and stuff was, on a weekly basis, check in with each other. How are we doing? Are we okay? Are we not okay? Where are we thriving? Where are we struggling? Like, and let's move. Do you feel loved? She was like, do you ever ask him if he feels loved? I'm like, no, no. And he doesn't ask me if I feel loved. Like, there's no. She's like, why not? I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know I should. But when you are aware of, oh my gosh, this is a relationship that I want to nurture and love, then it is important, just like your kids. Like, are we checking with our kids? Do you feel like, how are we doing? What worked this week? What didn't work this week? You'll hear me say that all the time. I
Mm-hmm.
digress. But I do love that you brought up the love languages because I think it is important to understand how we operate, what, how we work best, what our love languages are, and then what our spouses are so that we can understand. Like you said, maybe they're not really verbalizing it, but their actions are saying there's something wrong. What needs are not being met, but that's not communicated, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can relate.
We say it all the time. Oh, and then, little acts of service. So there is this society has created what Valentine's Day is, right? Grand gestures. How many people get engaged on Valentine's Day? It's gifts, it's roses, it's chocolate, it's dinner dates. It's these things that then this is what we think Valentine's Day is. This is what we have come to expect as a norm. We've set this standard of what Valentine's Day is. And like Chrissy said, her and her husband are not, they don't really celebrate in that capacity. But that doesn't mean we're not celebrating. It doesn't mean that you're not thinking and being intentional and saying, Happy Valentine's Day. It doesn't even have to be a card. Write on a piece of paper what they mean to you, how proud you are of, how far you guys have come or what you've gone through. Raising babies changes everything. We are going to do a podcast on that. For me, having kids changed our relationship. And I can look back now and be like, I'm so proud of how far we've come. It was ugly.
Mm-hmm.
There were years it was ugly. And we just were two new parents trying to figure it out as we went. Life was steamrolling. We went through house changes and losing family members and like all of this stuff. Like that's not easy. That takes a toll on your marriage. You have to be intentional. If there's one thing that I could tell my younger self going through those, you have to be intentional with this relationship. And you're right. It doesn't have to be grand gestures. We have allowed society and social media and comparison take over and create what the expectations are for this holiday when we forget that we get to decide what this holiday looks like. Use it as a marker to be intentional about your love and where you are, but you get to create what it looks like.
Yes. Yes. And I think it's important to really understand too, like being intentional on other days as well, not just Valentine's Day. And that's kind of where I come from. Like there's I don't want to just express my love on one day of the year. Yes, it serves as a reminder because life does get busy, as I said, and we're on autopilot and we tend to take each other for granted. It's important to be intentional on other days of the year too. And as you said, just like thanking him for bringing in the garbage or whatever. My husband is the cook of the family. I stay in my zone of genius, and cooking may or may not be my zone of genius. We'll just leave it there. He cooks 90% of the time, and he takes pride in that. So one way that he shows he loves me in our family is providing for us, doing things for us. So funny story, my daughter, 14-year-old, made brownies last night. And I was like, oh, we actually have those little individual ice cream cups, like the hood ice cream cups that come in like a sleeve of 12. We can
Yeah.
do brownie sundaes. And I was like all comfy on the couch with the blankets freezing. It's like snowing. We got almost 2 feet of snow, whatever. So the brownies are ready. I don't want to get up. So I asked Emily to make me a brownie sundae. She doesn't move. All of a sudden, my hubby gets up. He goes to the kitchen with a few more. He's got a
Oh.
brownie sundae. So like he's just that's the way he shows that he loves us. It's just doing things for us. And so that happens all year long. It's not just one day of the year.
So I have a friend, one of our listeners, Ari, posted a sign in her kitchen that said, I only have a kitchen because it came with the house. And I was like, I've never felt more seen. Chrissy and I are absolutely on the same page with you when it comes to that. So that's too funny. Well, and the other piece of this is Valentine's Day, the perception of it is very, the reds, the sexy, everything about it is, and how many moms in the midst of momming feel sexy? Like
Oh,
how many people feel like, and so that can make it unrelatable. Like that I'm just not there. Right.
there's something wrong with me, and my like confidence tanks because like I can't meet the expectation of what society says that they should be.
Yeah. And so what we do is then it becomes a feeling of anger, resentment. I can't relate to it. But because it's in your face and it's what we're supposed to do, it's right, then all of a sudden all of these emotions come, right? And
I'm
these feelings,
inadequate. Mhm.
right. Yeah, it's true. And it is an everyday it should be an everyday thing. It doesn't have to be this one grand, it's just every day. Supporting that, leaning into it, and loving it just every day, that everyday piece.
Mhm.
Because the
Mhm.
reality of, managing kids and schedules and juggling life and, all of the emotional toll that all that comes with all of that makes it difficult to just it almost feels fake. If you like pause on one day and you go out to dinner and it's just like, oh, it's Valentine's Day, right? Like it can almost feel fake because then the next day you're back to real life. And it's
Mhm.
like I want moms to feel just as loved and just as in love and just as passionate on Valentine's Day or like every day. I want that like simultaneously to be real and felt every day,
Mhm.
not just something that if we do celebrate, I want that to be a real life, real love thing that carries over and rolls into every day, not just this one day.
Exactly. Yes. And yeah, do what feels right to you and not
Yeah.
because of what social media says you should be doing or what, society says. So I think that's the important takeaway for me is like really make the day with what it means to you and your relationship, and what feels true to you. And it doesn't have to be anything huge. And quite frankly, it could be just another day, just making sure that again, and if you're not expressing love, if you're not having those moments where you can share your love, acknowledging that too together as a couple and understanding like
Right.
this is where we are now, but this isn't forever.
Right.
Just
Because Right. Because I always go back to what are our kids learning as what love is and what a healthy relationship looks like by what we're showing them. Are we showing them that one day a year we kind of just, because we have to? Or are we showing them the little intentional pieces of connection, of support, of gratitude, love? Like, are we showing them that in our everyday interactions and actions with each other? And that can be even, and I am the number one supporter of love to yourself. Like, are you showing yourself for the single moms or the people, the moms who are co-parenting? Are you showing acts of love to yourself every day? Are you showing up and supporting and being able to, because our kids are learning how to love themselves by how we love ourselves. They're learning how to show up in healthy relationships by the way you show up in your relationship with your partner.
And how to treat other people based on that
Right.
relationship.
Yeah. And we get to show them. Like some people celebrate birthdays in these big, huge Pinterest, just full spreads. Everything is, themed and to the nine. And those can be super magical if that's what that family does. But that doesn't take away from a family who makes a homemade cake and it's just a few people around, we put tablecloth on and put up a couple balloons and we have a homemade cake and we just kind of sit like that doesn't take away from the magic of what that looks like to the family.
Mhm.
Each gets to create their own, and it doesn't mean different doesn't mean wrong. What you create in your family is magic. And
Mhm.
so Valentine's Day can be the same thing. What are we creating? What does the whole vibe in your house regarding healthy relationships look like outside of
Mhm.
Valentine's Day? Yeah.
I love
How we
that.
do
I
it.
love that. And I think like when you were talking about the birthday parties, right? In the Pinterest, and I think that's something to, because we do get so hyper focused on comparison, like what other people are doing and that we should be doing those things too. And so I think this is just really taking a step back and thinking about what Jess just said, like what are my values? What are my family values? And although super cool that they can do that, and that's awesome, and I wish I could do that for my kid, or maybe not. I wouldn't want to do a Pinterest birthday because I couldn't uphold it. Like, that's not me. I would fail fast. However, other holidays like Christmas is a big deal for me. So kids do see what you do. And so really understanding like what you're doing not only impacts you and your spouse, but also what your kids are seeing. You're modeling it for them and the types of adults they're going to be. And this isn't to, add any additional pressure or anything or make you feel guilty for things that may or may not be happening. This is really just bringing awareness to it. How we interact with others really does impact our kiddos.
Absolutely. Because, my kids grew up with no healthy, marital interaction, and they would hear me complaining about Valentine's Day. It's no judgment, right? Awareness is the whole goal. Is
Mhm.
that when I became aware of the way I was acting and reacting, when I became aware of my perspective on certain things when it came to relationships and how I was showing up in mine, everything changed because I was able to look at it from a different perspective. I was able to shift my thought process because then I realized that little humans are learning from my behaviors. And that is something that I say to myself almost daily. What are they going to? I always think of them when they're 30,
Mhm.
37, right? When they're talking to their kids or when they're talking to a therapist, like, what are they going to say about what they saw or what their interactions growing up? What were their parents like? Did they love each other? Did they show affection? Did they laugh together? Did they have fun? Did they play with the kid? Like, what did they do? And we get to decide what that looks like. And it's once we realize, it just is so much more clear to me our goals as parents. It doesn't come from what we say. We get so caught up in our words and what we say to them and how we respond and how we discipline, but it's our actions that truly mean the most. And what are our actions showing them? And this is one piece that was a super, super perspective change for me was that we get to create what healthy relationships look like on a daily basis. And we can use Valentine's Day as a stepping stone into creating what love and healthy relationship and healthy communication looks like in our home.
Mhm. I love that. And this isn't about Valentine's Day, but when you were talking about impact in our actions, I have three kiddos. Two are adults now, and Emily is 14. And, my older kids will say that Emily's being raised very differently than how they were raised. Initially, I was like, well, yeah, I was a single mom on a fixed income raising you two. I was younger, and now that's not the
Right.
case. I'm married and I'm not on a fixed income. It looks very different for her, of course. And my middle child was like, I wouldn't change my childhood for anything. It was perfect. So I think the actions is what you're talking about. It's not about what they get or what we can provide. It's
Right.
really it's what we do with them, the relationships we have around them, what they see, what they hear. That's what's most important. It doesn't have, because I can tell you I was poor most of their childhood. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. I was nickel and diming everything. I was not at all financially stable when I had them. And I figured it out, right? And that's what we do as moms. We figure it out. Raising them was a very different situation for me than raising Emily. And so again, they wouldn't change it. You know, they had a great childhood.
Right. Because our kids don't know. Like they don't see some of the struggle. Like it's that outward our outward actions, how we interact, how we show up. They don't see, they didn't see you struggle. Like they didn't see
Right.
the things that you were doing behind the scenes to make sure they were okay. You were a good mom then, you're a good mom now. You've learned so much in between. It doesn't take away, even as we learn and as we change and evolve, it doesn't mean, I will tell you that if I could go back and do things differently, I would in a heartbeat. But I did the best I could. And I know that I was a good mom. I know that I was a good mom. I know that I did what I needed to for my kids. But I also know that I was able to learn and grow and evolve. And I'm a good mom now in a completely different way.
Yes, yes, yes. I think that's important to remember because we can still be good moms and struggle at the same time. Like the two can coexist. And so in what we decide to share with our children, what we decide to keep from our children, that is within our scope of being a mom and protecting them on some level. And it doesn't I knew at the time when I was struggling, it wasn't my forever. I kept telling myself, this will not be my life forever. It's where I am right now. Things will get better. And that glimmer of hope and my tenacity and just wanting better for my kids is what got me to where I am today. So, for all the listeners now, if you're struggling, in a relationship, if you're struggling as a single parent, if you're struggling with all of this, know that your current situation isn't forever. It might be really hard right now. And when a holiday like Valentine's Day comes up and you don't have the money to buy expensive gifts, or you don't have a relationship that you necessarily want to celebrate, honor that. Honor where you are and know that you can get through it.
Yeah. Storms don't last forever. That's something I read the other day and I was like, there's always a rainbow. There's always sunshine after us. So like the storms don't last forever. And it's true. When we're in it, it seems like it's going to last forever. But,
Mm-hmm.
we do come out the other side, and sitting in it and knowing that there is an end can help in a way. It's not easy. It's not easy. I remember it all too well. But you're right. There are things that we can learn in it. There's things that we can take away from it. I truly believe it's the storms that really shape and change our character, whether it be, the strength, the confidence. I don't think that I would have been able to go through these later stages of my life had I not gone through the storm, had it not transformed me into who I was, broken me down to where I needed to ask for help to be able to come out the other side and make life-changing decisions and be okay with it. And be able to have the strength to go through, to be able to have conversations with my kids and be there in different ways. It's normally the storm that shapes us. So, and we talked about this in a previous one. Can we see that as a good thing? Can we see trials and storms and struggles as not a negative, but as something that's going to shape us and to be able to positively step into that next phase of life?
Yes, and I think it's going to be hard to look at something like that as a positive, and knowing that it won't be that way forever, and just giving yourself a little bit of hope that things can get better. One step forward every day will make progress. And so, again, we say this all the time, if you want something different, you have to do something different. So if you want a different relationship with your spouse, if you want a different relationship with yourself, if you want a different relationship with your kids, what does that look like? What would you be doing if things were better? And what is one step to get you there?
I love this. What would you be doing? Somebody actually asked me that one time. I don't remember what it was, but if your marriage was already 100%, you were madly in love, you had a positive, great relationship, what would you be doing?
Yeah, what would you be doing? What would he be doing? Or her, or whatever the
Right.
case is, but what would you guys be doing? Where would you be? What kind
Mhm.
of time would you be spending together? What are the things that you would be saying to each other?
And are you willing to do those things now? regardless of the reciprocation, right? Because
Mhm.
you're learning, you're growing, you're changing your actions. Are you willing to show up now as the person who is already sees this marriage as 110%? And will you, are you willing to do those things now?
Yeah, or take one step towards that. So if you paint this whole perfect picture and it scares you or you just can't do it all right away, what is one thing that would move you towards that direction? Is it saying good morning with a good morning kiss every morning? Is it making his coffee for him every morning? What is one small thing that you can do to get you moving in that direction? And at first, it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel messy. It's going to feel uncomfortable because that's what happens when we're doing something that's unfamiliar. And so, having grace with ourselves and being patient with ourselves and still showing up to do the work. Jess has said this before, grace can make it so we don't do anything because we just keep giving ourselves grace and we end up not doing anything, right?
Right.
So we
Yep.
have to hold ourselves accountable, but while also giving ourselves grace. And so in understanding that our spouse may or may not be in the same arena as us at that time, they may or may not be ready to reciprocate.
Right.
And we'll need to be okay with that and still be willing to show up.
Because I think we set these intentions, like you said earlier in this episode, he should do
Mhm.
this, or he should. We set expectations that they just know that if the dishwasher is clean, that they should just unload it. We set these expectations without communicating it because they're adults. They should be able to know what we need. Wrong. That's something that we have become accustomed to, is just saying, or we don't say anything. We just assume that they should be able to handle our expectations. And so, being able to, the change that we're making, are we willing to put in the actions without requiring some kind of reciprocation, without saying, okay, I'll do that, because that goes for that tit for tat, right? Like, we're not willing to show up unless they are reciprocating in a way that we find appropriate. Like, I've had conversations with moms before, and I've been like, well, who, like, how do you know what he is going to be willing to do, if, and how does he know what your expectations are of him? Like, that is a very slippery slope when it comes to expectation versus reality. And there's a lot of resentment that comes because we're not able to maintain the expectations or the actions that we want of them. And if we're only willing to do it based off of a specific outcome that we expect of them, nobody's happy. Nobody's happy. And nobody's getting what they want. And nobody is, there's nothing good comes from that. And so it really does. It starts with us. It truly does. It starts with us. And we don't, there's so many, we'll have to do another podcast because we can go down a whole rabbit hole of, when their society creates this picture of, he asks the girl out, he opens the door, he buys the dinner. So we set these expectations of, he's always the one to start. He's always the
Mhm.
one to initiate. And and as our marriage grows and the relationship evolves and those seasons change, and maybe he's not, initiating all the things that he once did, because, well, guess what? Now we have kids. Now we're caring for this. Now we have a home where I'm taking care of this and that. Those roles change, but in our mind, he should always be the one to initiate
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Mhm.
And so understanding that we play a role in this as well. It is also our job to initiate love, support, communication, gratitude. And I think that that's something that we get stuck on just based off of that societal norm that we always wait for the gentleman to do something for us. And that's another podcast for another day, but a great conversation.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so we're going to leave you with 3 tips.
3 tips. I'll kick off the first one. All right. So share one honest sentence. So really think about one low pressure sentence to share with your spouse, partner, whoever you have at home this week. And if you don't have someone, maybe do it with yourself. It could be a journal prompt.
Yeah.
But think about one low pressure sentence. So examples could be, I've been feeling more tired than disconnected. I think I need more support, not solutions right now. Or I don't need a big gesture. I just want to feel considered. This is just one sentence, one moment, and no fixing required.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think it's great to just open those lines of communication. I'm
Mhm.
struggling here. I don't feel loved. Like I had mentioned earlier, do you feel loved? Do you feel supported? I just put in happy moms. Do you feel supported? Right? Like, do we stop and ask ourselves that enough? So, like you said, even if it's just you, really drill down and find out where you stand with yourself. Another tip would be we encourage you guys to be intentional in any way on Valentine's Day to show yourself love, your spouse love, your kids love. Just do something for those who were like me and think the holiday is BS. I would have consider a change of heart and change perspective in a way that I did, where you can use it as a day to be intentional to show love to the people around you. Real love. It doesn't have to be the Hallmark love. It doesn't have to be, the chocolate and roses kind of love. Just something to tell the people around you how much they mean to you.
I love that. Something small, something
Yeah.
intentional.
Yeah.
And number 3. So answer this question for yourself. What does love realistically look like in this season of our life? Again, what does love realistically look like in this season of our life? So maybe it's teamwork, maybe it's grace, maybe it's rest, but it's important to let go of how it's supposed to look and honor how it can look right now.
That's probably my favorite one because as we've talked about this changing of seasons, the previous episode, if you haven't listened, go listen. We talked about adult friendships and the changing of seasons in our life and how it affects our friendships in our life. This too is just, again, we set expectations of what love, what our marriage, what our relationships should look like all the time, not giving grace or lowering expectations when you are in the difficult seasons, when you are, on the verge of purchasing your first home and that's stressful, when you have babies and life just looks like chaotic and upside down, and you are expecting a specific love, a specific of what this looks like. And that is unrealistic. And that is where resentment builds. That's where all of these feelings come in of anger that can have a detrimental impact on your relationship. And so that is probably my favorite one out of all of these. What does love look like in this season of our life? Where are you? What does the hard look like? Where are the struggles? What are you guys going through? And how can you be a team versus working against each other? How can you tackle this season? How can you set realistic expectations of what love and marriage looks like or in a relationship during this season, no matter where you are? And how can you become partners to tackle it versus your marriage becoming an added struggle in the season?
And then when it's not talked about, the longer it's not talked about, the harder it is talked about.
Yeah,
Put
it
this on your
truly is.
calendar.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
You are 100% correct.
All
All
right.
right. Any last thoughts?
Well, I just want to say thanks for hanging out with us on Mom, Fuel, and Mindset. If today's conversation spoke to you, take it as your reminder that happy moms don't come from doing more. They come from choosing themselves and owning their growth.
And if you loved this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and even share it with another mom who needs a little fuel and a mindset shift today.
Until next time, keep showing up as yourself, keep growing forward, and remember, happy moms own their growth.
See you guys soon.